Hola, buenas noches y bienvenidos a todos a este episodio especial de The Witch's Craft. Welcome, everybody, to this really special episode of The Witch's Craft. For those of you that don't speak Spanish, um, we have a very important episode this time. It's kind of revolving around my own culture. As I always say, don't adjust your screens. I am this brown, and
I'm
this
right.
this particular week is very important in my culture, um, particularly because as of the 16th, September 16th, that is the actual date of the Mexican Revolution.
Mhm.
For everybody else who's thinking, hey, Taco Tuesday, hey, Cinco de Mayo, yeah, we're going to be Mexican for a day. Yeah, you guys are doing the wrong day. Hate to tell you, it's the wrong day. It's actually September the 16th. That is the iconic date of the real Mexican Revolution. So, because of that, I wanted to actually approach something that is also a little more iconic, something that gets thrown around that even if you have the hint of the Mexican culture in there, you're going to know who we're talking about. So, and I'm sorry, it's not the lady that lives next door in the barrios. It's not the old lady who lives by herself with like 10 cats and like 15 dogs.
Oh God, that will
It's
be
not
me.
her. It's really
Not me.
no,
No,
it's really not her. It's not Gwen either. All right.
no, and I
Yet
don't have any
somehow,
cats over here, so.
in Mexican culture, like parents tend to want to do this. It's like, okay, you're gonna misbehave. We're gonna call her. She's next door. I kid you not. She's gonna come and put you to bed, or she's gonna take you over to her house. So, um, and of course, we are talking about the icon. I don't call her a legend. I don't call her a myth. I don't call her a ghost. Um, in fact, I don't even call her by the name that she is really linked to, which is La Llorona, the weeping woman. That is our topic for this week. And we're going to dive into more than just the iconic legend. We're going to dive more, uh, rather deeper into the actual origins of the story so that we can understand how this becomes a ghost story that continues to this day. She's become a ghost story. She's become um, really nothing more than Hollywood's plaything to become uh, this malevolent being, this malevolent thing that's always after your kids. We're gonna go into that. Before we get into that, because I'm really getting ahead of myself.
Just a little,
Gwen,
not a
what
lot.
have you got? What have you
Well,
got for this week, and what do you have for the stone of the week? We're actually going to start with that today.
I'm Gwen, and I'm the owner of Avalon Visions, and of course, we have a wonderful product page, avalonvisionsproducts.com, which is up and running. Yay! We migrated last week, and it didn't go smoothly, but it's all perfect now. And we kind of thought about what stone should we use, and we talk a lot about intuition, and we talk a lot about popular concepts, and probably by far and wide the single most popular stone that people come into my shop looking for is amethyst. And well, just to let you know, amethyst has some definite properties. Spiritual awareness, connection, chakra activation. It's a crown chakra kind of energy, third eye. It's a lot about enhancing your psychic abilities and calming and balancing. And an amethyst looks like this. This is if you go on to avalonvisionsproducts.com and you want to order a lot of amethysts, you can order a flat of amethysts, which is quite a few pieces of flats of, like a tray. for about $166. It's on sale right now. And why I wanted to show you that is because you can see that, we have a lot of different types of amethyst bracelets, things like that. If you come in my store, you can buy various different qualities of amethyst. This is a light amethyst. Now, I have also got some points, and I just want to show you the difference in colors. If you look at this one, you can see that it goes all the way to a really deep shade and all the way to a very light shade. If you saw a stone that was about like the color of my backdrop, that would probably be an amethyst, although that's more of a sujolite color. But you can see here that this is like I think these are chevrons. Actually, if you could see the pattern, that little line coming up here is like a little chevron. And these are double terminated points. They're very cool. Whoopsie, just dropped that on my keyboard. Good thing is it didn't hurt it because it kind of landed on a piece of paper. But these are they're very, you can see the kind of chevron pattern where it goes up like a chevron. So they're very good. You can hold them. People put them under their pillow. Joe, what do you do with your amethyst?
Mine, I actually do have a few pieces.
Yeah, you do.
One of them, which actually, one was gifted to me, and that one actually does go with me whenever I travel. And it just brings this calming energy. It's just whenever I place it in a particular place in a room, if say if I'm staying in a motel or I'm staying like wherever, just bring out that little piece, put it by a window, and it, for me personally, like it can neutralize whatever energy was there in the room, and it just feels way more calming, um and just personal to me. So it's like
If
that is really really good as far as I mean, if you're attached to a particular stone, amethyst is a good one to be attached to. So
it's very popular, and if you look in the Crystal Bible, you see our copy doesn't get a lot of use. Packing it together, it's first thing that they say about it is it's a powerful and protective stone with a high vibration that guards against psychic attack and turns energy into love. And I kind of feel like that sort of fits too. It works with your crown chakra, which if you know anything about the chakra systems, you've got red, orange, yellow, green, kind of turquoise, blue, indigo, and then this lavender. And so it's a very crown protective energy, and it's sort of like connecting with, angels, and what if you believe in angels or higher beings. And it's it's in the quartz family. So rose quartz is just a few nudges away from it. I really like amethyst. It's also the February birthstone, which is my mom's. So I'm partial to amethyst. So.
okay. Do you have anything going on this week over at the shop?
I think we have some more of the classes that Catherine Athen is teaching. She used to run the Palo Alto School of Hypnotherapy, and then next week we're back to doing the Qigong classes on Wednesdays, and
Nice.
I think in October we're starting up with some of the Reiki classes, and we are really kind of trying to put together a syllabus for next year so that we utilize our space a little more regularly. And of course, the next psychic fair is going to be in October on the. I should probably put that up. It should be the first weekend of October, which is coming right on up. I have a little list on my wall, and I finally got down to the end of it. I was like, oh dear, I need to print a new list up. I check, oh yeah, I think oh no, that was this week. Anyway, a little list, but I'll be putting a new list up now. Something else to do. So.
All right. So, without further ado, let's get into the talk of La Llorona. And if you guys missed this if you guys happen to miss this presentation, I'm absolutely just over the moon that you guys are actually here. This talk was first given at one of the last Pantheacons. So if you missed it, here's your chance to actually catch up, and you'll see what we were talking about. So, and along with this, we have our wonderful slideshow. Yay! Thank you, Gwen, for putting that up. So,
I'm going to actually, whoopsie, let me try to get this so that it's a little better. There we go. I'm going to put it up like this, and then I'll add you back in. Here you go,
all
Joe.
right. So, all right. So virtually in every city in Mexico, anywhere that you go, there is a story about this ghostly woman who goes out every night and she shouts and she cries in the street for her children. So in each municipality uh, of the country, there is a place where there are actual written testimonies about the apparitions of this mysterious woman who is wandering at night, and she's shouting in a voice of pain, "Oh, my children!" She's always crying for her children, um, but who is she? That's the question. That's always been the question. Like, she's now known as La Llorona, which translates to the weeping woman. Um, and the story goes that she attacks children or cheating husbands. Uh, so basically, the protocol is simple. Protocol is really simple. If you are out at night, if you are by some kind of body of water, a channel, a river, a lake, if you hear the sounds of a woman crying, just absolutely run like hell. Run like you stole something. That's the idea. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Just run like you stole something. Um, Now, really, really quick, here is my own semi-personal connection with this. Um, he doesn't talk about it much, but he did relay the story, and I am talking about my father. When he was younger, in Michoacan, Mexico, um, there was a lot of farmland. He was, as many young men are, he was roped into doing farm work on this particular piece of land. Okay, so he went with about maybe 4 or 5 other guys. They were going to go do some work, cutting the crops, doing the harvest, anything that they needed to do. So when they get there, there is a room with an open window. There's no glass, just it's a hole in the wall. There's a shade. That's it. So they go to sleep. They prepare for the next day. They're getting some rest. Okay. When they wake up, the butt crack of dawn, they're all getting ready to work. And they notice there's one guy. There's one guy who is sitting in the corner of the room. He's completely shaken. He just keeps looking out the window. And they could tell he had not slept at all. He just wide awake. And so they asked him, like, "¿Qué pasó? What happened to you? You okay?" He's like, "I cannot believe that none of you heard what I was hearing last night." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You guys really didn't hear that? It kept me up all night. There was literally a woman just wailing her head off. She was completely crying, and she was just outside our window. How did you guys not hear that?" And they looked outside, and sure enough, there was a little channel just a few minutes walk away from where they were sleeping. I still have not got the full story as to whether or not that guy actually returned to work But that was that is my father's story. That is my father's link to this legend. So he did not personally hear her, but somebody who was working with him actually did, and it scared the hell out of him. So that's the kind of thing that excuse me, that's the kind of thing that we are actually talking about as far as like the apparitions. So Gwen, if you'll go ahead and put that slideshow back up, we'll go to the actual legend of it. All right, so the legend goes that long ago, a woman who was indigenous, she married a rich man with whom she had two kids. Um, when their marriage hit a rough patch, her husband would spend less and less time at home, and whenever he was at home, he paid attention only to the kids. Eventually, she saw him with another woman, and she became enraged just beyond reason. And so, what she did in her fit of jealousy, she took her two children to a nearby river and she drowned them. She just drove them deep in the river, and when they eventually just kind of floated up to the surface, she immediately regretted that decision, and she cried out, "I mis hijos," which translates to "Oh my children, oh my sons," um, and she couldn't deal with that. She couldn't deal with what she had done. So she is said to have drowned herself immediately afterwards. So it was a murder suicide. Now, the story goes that her spirit is actually cursed to roam the earth, floating over and over near bodies of water in her white funeral gown, forever weeping as she searches for her lost children. Now, after the conquest of Mexico, they kept talking about this apparition, and it was said that it was an indigenous woman, which I mentioned, um, who had three children with a Spaniard. But when he legitimately married another woman, she, in revenge, killed the children and went crazy. And the interesting thing is that it's interesting to see how the legend has been modified and adapted according to times and locations, which we're going to see. So it's not only in Central America, but almost globally. So here's the location. So this is Mexico. And the origin story begins here. This legend tells us that she is a woman who appeared just before the Spanish conquest in order to prevent everything that was going to fall on the indigenous people, on the natives. In the Mexican capital, they confirm that she appeared in the center of Mexico City, floating in the canals of Xochimilco and in those of Coyoacan. So that is what you're looking at is one of the original drawings, one of the original maps of what Mexico, or rather the center of Mexico, really looked like at the time. So
That would be Mexico City, right, in that lake.
that is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Case,
Yes.
because that, yeah, okay.
Yes. So then you have Moctezuma II. So in his writings, you have one friar, you have Fray Diego Duran, one of these Spanish uh, evangelizers, let's call them colonizers, let's call it for what it is. And he realized that the Aztec emperor Moctezuma was worried about dreams that foretold the end of his reign. So there were stories of night walkers and a mysterious woman who cried out and groaned. And this woman was leaving Lake Texcoco on which was the legendary Tenochtitlan. And Fray Bernardo de Sahagún, he was a Franciscan missionary. He also heard stories from the natives which said that at night, this woman shouted, "My little children, we must go, but where will I take you?" And the friar believed he had the entity, this woman that was showing up, pegged as Cihualcoatl, the snake woman, or Tonantzin, which translates to our mother. So, and this was a deity that was considered, over time, she became recognized as an Aztec earth and fertility goddess, who gives birth to the sun god of war, and her daughter becomes the moon, and her 400 other children become the stars. So it's quite beautiful. It's a beautiful story. It's
I think
almost
I
a
went
creation
too
story.
far on the slide there. This is Chicocolto. I can't say her name. I'm working on it.
That's all right. So last bit um, on that was that in the Florentine Codex,
Okay.
that's an encyclopedic work on the Nahua peoples of Mexico that was completed during the 16th century by the Friar Sahagún. Cihuacuatl is described as a savage beast and an evil omen who appeared in white. There's a connection right there. Also appears in white. And this entity would walk at night, weeping and wailing. She's also described as an omen of war. This goddess could also be linked to the six of 10 omens that are recorded in the Codex as having foretold the conquest. It's the voice of a woman heard wailing at night, crying about the fate of her children. So this becomes less of this folklore about an actual woman who became enraged and jealous and drowned her kids, and more of a huge spiritual happening. So she becomes more than this. She becomes more than this ghost, even at this point. And this is before the conquest even happened. So, moving forward, here's the rest of it. So, a later codex by Dominican friar Diego Duran details the origin myths of the Aztec gods and discusses a goddess, which you see now, Huatlicuac, who is often linked or thought to be the same as Cihuacuatl, but Huatlicue, she of the snaky skirt, as you can see, was also a mother of the god of war. So Duran describes her as the ugliest and dirtiest that one could possibly imagine. So she's just really nasty, according to him. And her face was so black and covered with filth that she looked like something straight out of hell, according to him. And this is, of course, a friar we're talking about. So she waits for her son to return to her from war and weeps and mourns for him while he's gone. Duran provides details of some strange occurrences ahead of the conquest, before it even happened, that were reported to have troubled Moctezuma. Among these was, again, a woman who roams the streets weeping and moaning. And her message is quite clear. Something was coming. And whatever it was going to be, it was going to be absolutely devastating. And then comes this a-hole right here. This guy, Hernan Cortés. By the way, we get here, but feel free to hiss all you want, throw all the things you want at him, just whatever you want. This guy was absolutely on level with today's orange guy that is sitting in the White House. Let's put it that way.
There's a sea named after him.
So,
I'm seeing the relationship to the
you know
Gulf
what?
of Mexico being its name changed. Yeah. Anyway,
You know,
sorry.
I always no, I always laugh at the fact that like the way this is positioned, like he absolutely has the worst face, knowing that we are talking horribly about him.
Yeah,
He
he
just
was.
look at the face right there. He
Yeah,
has that. It's
he
just
knows.
face of disgust.
Somewhere he
But here it
knows.
is. You know. So all right. So this guy arrives on the scene. This is Cortez. When he did so, he received a score of slaves as a gift to try to calm his fury against the natives. One of them, in particular, was known as Malintzin, and this is the Nahuatl language of the Aztecs. That name, Malintzin, became La Malinche. There's a lot of Mexican people that see that they see that that name on the stores. They'll see it on the streets. They see it in restaurants or La Malinche, La Malintzin. They don't really know who she is, but this is where that comes from. So she was born in the late 15th century, allegedly the daughter of a cacique or a chief, as the firstborn to inherit her father's domains. But upon her father's death, her mother remarried another indigenous chief with whom she conceived a male. So the girl was actually sold as a slave and bought by a Tabasco chieftain. Tabasco is another tribe, not just the hot sauce. I'm sorry. We're gonna blow up in a whole bunch of stereotypes here.
Okay,
But
I think I'm on the right side now too.
so all right, so this chieftain, this Tabasco chieftain, later gave her to Cortez. Now, in the beginning, Cortez had given her to one of his captains, Alonso Hernandez. But upon discovering that she would be useful to him for understanding Nahuatl and Maya, he decided he was going to make her his lover. She was only 15. Let that sink
Let's
in.
have some comparisons to today's times, doesn't it?
She was only 15. At the same time, let's go back and look at that little characteristic of hers. She was absolutely intelligent enough to know several languages. Tell me women are not smarter than the men. I'll wait. So, um, so moving on. Again, she was at a young age. She was only 15. Now, we need to discuss the mestizos. Um, so concubinage was accepted at the time, but only if the women were baptized. So after being given to this great conqueror, she received the Catholic faith and was given the name of Marina. It's hard to imagine that this wasn't done by force. I mean, it's really just their way. Now, upon their arrival in Tenochtitlan, the imperial rulers of the Aztecs offered women, usually their female relatives, uh, to the Spaniards, and marrying an Indian heiress became a familiar path to success. So cohabitating was also common, and in some cases, Spanish men would take advantage of the indigenous practice of polygamy by having numerous concubines. Although initially there was a shortage of Spanish women in New Spain, as they called it, which meant that unions between indigenous women and Spanish men were quite common and not frowned upon. Frowned upon. By the end of the 16th century, the population of European women was on the rise, and the status of indigenous or mestiza, mixed-raced women, fell considerably. And the faiths of these indigenous and mestiza women were mixed. Some enjoyed stability. Uh, an enhanced status, and therefore they benefited from these unions. But more often, unfortunately, they were cast aside after a few years, either for younger women or more often for a Spanish wife. Um, and more alarmingly, the children resulting from the union were sometimes taken away from their indigenous or mestiza mothers in a practice that derived from a Spanish tradition of relieving so-called wayward women of their children. And the historian Karen Vera Powers explains that when this practice found its way to the New World and was applied to indigenous mothers who had born children with Spanish men, their prescribed racial inferiority was combined with the natural inferiority of the gender to produce generalized negative attitude toward their ability to socialize with their children properly. This was more often the case for daughters, as doubts about Native women's capacity to raise their mestizo daughters were especially acute, as the Spanish emphasis on sexual purity was not valued in Mexican society. Generations of children were therefore raised as Spanish, despite their mixed heritage, and taught to believe that their mother's indigenous culture was inferior. How do we know that this was actually a fact? I can honestly speak to this personally, being someone who does originally come from the Purepecha tribe. Even though my grandmother still kind of held on to her tradition, she held on to her customs. She never really wanted to talk about it. And so a lot of the traditions, a lot of the practices were lost. I've asked some of my own family if they knew anything about it, and it's been completely wiped out. And they all say the same thing, that if you happen to ask her about it, if you ever ask her about her indigenous um, culture, her own roots, it was something that was completely taboo. She would never discuss it. She never wanted to openly accept her own heritage. She was embarrassed by it because she was conditioned to do so by these Catholics, by these religious people that were coming in and just absolutely bashing them over the head with it, that they had to let go of their practice. They had to let go of their traditions. They had to let go of their deities. So by the time I came around, I got shortchanged. And so
You know,
now I'm picking up everything that I can from readings that are not as personal as they should have been. So
Joe,
that is something
I
that
want to
I can
interject in here just a second.
right.
Even when they were doing the studies to open up classrooms to Black children in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
they did studies where they would show a white doll and a black doll, and the kids would go like, "I want that one; it's prettier," which of
Mm-hmm.
course is not based in reality, as we know. It's based in how you're treated and how you're perceiving yourself. And I'm sorry that your mom had to live through that. That's
Right.
you know.
So, um, so that is, I mean, that is a personal wound that I am not able to really connect unless I were to actually physically go down um, to our island, which we actually still have in the middle of Mexico City, um, and try to connect with my people there. Um, and even by now, there's that culture clash. There's um, that language barrier, because they still speak their own language. They still speak our original language. Spanish is only secondary. Um, I could give a whole other talk on that, but let's focus on what happens in our culture with our women and with La Llorona. So the situation for indigenous and mestiza women grew worse. By the end of the 16th century, the availability of Spanish women meant that it was no longer necessary to create honorary Spanish wives of the mestizas, and though mixed relationships continued, their legitimacy dwindled. So literally, they were just cast aside. So to bring it back full circle to Our Lady, Malintzin, this is precisely what is said to have happened. At first, she gained importance during the crossing of Cortes to the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, as part of his plan to defeat the empire. And the chronicles of Bernal Diaz de Castillo describe her as a nosy, unrestrained woman who held some authority over the natives in New Spain. So she did at least have that position of power for the time being. And they had a child. Martin Cortes was born, the first mestizo Mexican who is known by name and surname according to certain sources. However, Hernan Cortes, suddenly returned to Spain and took their son, leaving his lover alone, despised by those of her same race. At some point, he married one Catalina Suarez, and interestingly, she died under the mysterious circumstances the night of November 1st or 2nd in 1522. And of course, there were accusations that, at the time that Cortes had murdered his wife. Sound familiar? Now, the fate of Malintzin or La Malinche. So, humiliated by the sad role of surrendering her son, she never saw him again. Now, historians lost track of her after her quote unquote service and her journeys around Central America after that ended. So she has no definite date of death. And that just adds to the mystery. Now, towards the 18th century, more than one chronicler identifies this indigenous woman, Malintzin, as La Llorona, but also as the bad mother. And from there, the myth of Cihuacuatl becomes legend. And from then on, she's no longer solely related to water, and stories begin to emerge everywhere about the woman who mourns for her children. So that is where all of that starts to kind of blend together. Now, there's more to her name. So the name of Malinche, and there's another slide to that. Gwen, if you can go ahead and take us over to that. Her name, thank you. The name of La Malinche means traitorous, and the natives saw in this an incarnation of evil or betrayal. Now, some point out that upon falling in love with Cortes, she began to defend the interests of the Spaniards instead of her own people, who were, let's face it, they were massacred by the conquerors.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of losing her son for the Mexican people, that becomes a symbol of motherhood, but of sad motherhood. The woman was harshly criticized for not having done anything so that they would not take her son. And from then on, La Llorona begins to have a different meaning. Now, the Catholic Church modified history, as it often does, to give it a meaning that if you are a woman and surrender yourself to forbidden loves, such as Malinche did, you're not fulfilling the traditional duties of a mother. You'll be condemned to suffering and wandering the underworld. In the 1950 essay, The Labyrinth of Solitude, Octavio Paz describes La Llorona as one of the Mexican representations of maternity, and as such, she's presented as a symbol of Mexican identity. This identity, according to Paz, revolves around Mexicans' view of themselves as hijos de la chingada. That is where this is exactly where that phrase, that's this derogatory term, comes from.
Actually, that's on this one. There you go.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Um,
I'm ahead of myself.
so Paz explains that the verb chingar means it denotes violence and emerges from oneself to penetrate another by force, or let's call it rape. That's what it is. Um, the chingada is the mother that is forcibly opened, violated, and deceived. The hijo de la chingada is the offspring of that violation or abduction or deceit.
May I ask a thing? Isn't that a swear word? La chingada.
It absolutely is.
I've heard that
Right.
word.
Oh yeah, this is where that comes from.
Aha.
So this violation is the conquest, the quintessential symbol of which La Malinche, or Doña Marina, as she was Christianized, who, despite having been sold into slavery and given to conquistadores, and therefore having limited agency of her own, has been painted as a traitor to her people. This anachronistic, highly misogynistic view that lays the blame for the defeat of the civilization at the feet of one disenfranchised woman has remained popular to this day. They blamed the victim. And indeed, Paz,
No, they blame the victim.
oh,
Never heard that
yeah,
before.
oh yeah, no, of course, yeah, it's unheard of course, yeah.
You
So,
don't hear that ever.
oh, yeah. So indeed, Paz himself states that the Mexican people have not forgiven La Malinche for her betrayal. They blame her for the slaughter of the people. This is in the face of indisputable evidence that the Aztecs were defeated by a Spanish force aided by thousands of indigenous allies, a fact often conveniently forgotten in popular culture. It was not just her, it was all of the other tribes that were against the Aztecs and resisting conquest. Now, in Mexico's creation myth, La Malinche has become, or she stepped into the shoes of Eve. In
Mhm.
regard to her relationship with Cortes, Paz insists that she gave herself voluntarily over to the conquistador, but he forgot her as soon as her usefulness was over. And so it's easy to see how she could be merged with the legend of the Wailing Woman. And the fact that she bore Cortes' son also fueled this conflation. And their union symbolizes the birth of Mexico as a nation of forcibly mixed race people. Now, focusing more on the haunting aspects, we also have instances where this wailing spirits has been seen in other places of the world. So I call this part whaling across the borders. So Costa Rica, Peru, Colombia, Chile, Argentina. You have all of these. The Tepesa legend is native to the indigenous regions of the provinces of Chiriquí, Los Santos, and Veraguas in Panama. It comes from the time of the conquest, so around the same time when a Spaniard fell in love with a beautiful young indigenous woman from the region and abandoned her when she became pregnant. So that no one in the tribe could find out about such a terrible fault, the woman escaped into the depths of the mountains. This is where it becomes like folklore, with a horrible idea of burying her son alive. However, with the advice of an old witch, so yay us, the young woman threw the boy into a stream that ran between ghastly cliffs. And when he saw this as a crime, God, their sky daddy, spoke to her from above and cursed. That sin weighs you down and will weigh you down for eternity. From now on, you will cry out in guilt. De pesa, you will be damned among the creatures that inhabit the earth. You will have to hide in the shadows for your mistake. You will not stand. And with regret for the loss of your son, you will wander for eternity until you have paid for your crime. Now, she swore to find the child whose cries drove her to madness, and that's the similar story here, but she had no luck in finding him. People say that it is quite common to hear her on the banks of rivers. She's crawling at dusk and lamenting what she did and stalking the houses where there are babies. And she tries to take one to replace the one that she killed. Now, over in the Germanic and Slavic traditions, you have somebody that is called the White Woman. In England, you have the White Lady of Willow Park, who fits the description perfectly. Willow Park is a very wooded area in Newton-le-Willows, and I'm probably butchering that name because it's in Merseyside, in the
Sounds
northwest of England. This ghost is believed to be the tormented spirit of a bride who was drowned in the lake by her husband on their wedding night. So the story changes a little bit, but the characteristics are there. Lorelei lives in the depths of the river in Germany. She would sit on a rock singing tempting songs in the evening. Boatmen who heard her song became so enchanted they forgot about the time and place until their vessels crashed and they drowned. So she was a siren. She saw a fisherman, fell in love, he returned the feelings, and they had a romance for several weeks. Lorelei even helped him with fishing. But that happiness lasted only until she heard about a young girl who also liked the handsome youngster. Now, one evening, Lorelei grabbed her lover and she dragged him down into her underwater palace. So he drowned, but he could stay with her forever. This wasn't enough. She continued with her lurking, singing, and thus many men lost their lives. Then we head over to Korea. In Korea, you have the Kwishin. The Kwishin dwells not in rivers or clean bodies of water, but in the muck and sewers and drains. She is frightening. She bears down upon her random victims as they sleep. paralyzing them while sucking the breath and life out of them. Probably one of the most horrifying ones that I came across. Now, in Greek legend, you have Medea and Jason. It's the trope of the barbarian girl who kills her children after being betrayed by her lover and discarded for a woman of higher status or more appropriate race. So there, the story becomes the same. You also have the White Lady of Durand Eastman Park, Rochester, in New York. So guess what, New Yorkers, you got your own version. She searches for her dead daughter. And I think one of the last ones that we have, of course, is the Banshee.
My favorite. My ancestors. Woo! Sorry. Irish.
This means the fairy woman. A banshee is known in Ireland as a female spirit who wails outside a home to warn of the imminent death of a family member. Often heard before she is seen. Her wailing is so high pitched that nobody would dare willingly attempt to witness this terrifying spirit. In Ireland, the banshee does not bring or cause death like the other ones, but the ghost warns loved ones that death is near.
And I think she can drive you to death too. Because
Let's actually, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. The ghost warns loved ones that death is near, giving the family a chance to prepare. Some myths say that she acts as an escort to ensure their loved one passes safely to the other side. Does she cause the death? No. But is she there to guide them? Yes. The stories of the banshee have been passed down generation by generation for centuries, and some legends say that this is the ghost of a young woman who was brutally killed. Um, and her death was so horrible that now she watches families and loved ones, warning them of that impending death. She can also take on many forms. She could be an old woman dressed in black with long gray hair, uncovering her face with a veil, which we actually did talk about with Los Spookies. You guys can go check that out. Check out that podcast. We do talk about an old woman dressed in black with long hair, and she's actually just washing clothes by a river. So the banshee can also be an old woman with long white hair, red eyes, dressed in a green dress, or a deathly pale woman with long red hair dressed in a white dress, sometimes in a shroud. Or the most horrifying one is probably the headless woman, naked from the waist up and carrying a bowl of blood.
That sounds pretty
That's pretty horrifying. Yeah.
difficult.
So then we have the modern retellings. One particular woman, it's a Mexican woman, Juana Leja. She attempted to kill her 7 children by throwing them into the Buffalo Bayou in Houston, Texas in 1986. She's a victim, or she was a victim of domestic violence. She was apparently trying to end her suffering and that of her children, 2 of whom actually died. So, oddly enough, the bizarre, horrific practice of murder in some cases does continue. Now, I would like to end with an homage to Malintzin, to La Llorona. Um, I wish. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Before we even get into that, by the way, in these modern retellings, this right here is what Hollywood makes her look like. This is what this incredible legend, this incredible story of a powerful woman who was used, manipulated, tortured, and unforgiven by her people. This is what she's been reduced to. This is a gimmick. This is a gimmick used by Hollywood to sell movie tickets, to bring audiences a bunch of popcorn scares. This, by the way, is from the film, I believe it's called The Curse of La Llorona, with Linda Cardellini. Decent film. Some of it does actually um, portray the legends, but honestly, I mean, instead of bringing her real justice, this is what they make her look like.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of,
this
kind of
is Hollywood
unfair,
for you.
really.
Yeah. So instead of focusing on this horror gimmick by Hollywood, I would like to actually bring it back to the song, and I wish we could actually play it for you guys. Um, if you guys want me to sing it for you in some of the podcasts, I'd be happy to. I'm not going to do that here, but I will actually give you guys the translation of the song. It is written in Spanish, and it's honestly it's almost as haunting as the story itself. Um, I know this particular version was written by Luis Martinez Serrano and performed by Angela Aguilar, which she's absolutely amazing. Now, the story itself is told by an outsider's perspective. It's not told by hers, and it's just one of several versions which have been written, added to, rearranged, and recorded over the years. Also, by the way, if and I'm pretty sure there are hardly any people that left that have not seen the movie Coco. In that film, there is another version of the song La Llorona that is sung by one of the characters, and it was really amazing. I was absolutely tickled to hear that in the movie. But so that different versions again. Um, so I'm going to read this to you as it comes up on the screens, uh, and you guys can pinpoint what the correlations are, even though a lot of times it's been said that the song doesn't really have to do with the legend. It's easy to point out. So let's go ahead and go through that. So it says, you actually, I'm taking my glasses off for this one. Forgive me, guys. So,
I'm going to make it
okay.
bigger,
All right, thank you. So
just a little bigger.
you stepped out of a temple one day, weeping woman. While passing by, I saw you. Such a beautiful dress you wore that I thought you to be the Virgin Mary. Oh, poor me, weeping woman of the lily field. He who knows nothing of love knows nothing of martyrdom. I don't know what happens to the flowers, weeping woman, the flowers of a cemetery, because when the breeze blows, weeping woman, they appear to be mourning. Oh, poor me, weeping woman, take me to the river. Wrap me in your shawl, weeping woman, for I will freeze to death. I carry two kisses in my soul, weeping woman. that will not leave me be. My mother's last, and the first one I gave you. Wrap me in your shawl, weeping woman, where I will freeze to death. So, once again, although it said that the song does not directly correlate with the legend, the references are clearly there. The ancient temple, the river, being wrapped in her shawl, and the sensation of freezing to death. And it's a wonderful homage. So there you guys have it. There is just a an inkling of what the legend of La Llorona really is. Now, can you work with this particular icon? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not difficult to create a even a small ritual or a small altar to her, if only for the intent of protecting the women of our time in this day when they are being disenfranchised, when they are being misheard or not being heard at all, when they are being banished, when all of the injustices are happening to our absolutely powerful, beautiful women in our world. In fact, I encourage it. I encourage you to take one time, take one day or one night, just one small ritual. Even if you're not of my own culture, this is still an icon that stands for all women. If you can find it in your heart, if you feel inclined to work with her, to work with La Llorona, she's not a ghost story, you guys. She's not just a ghost story. She's not just a cautionary tale to tell kids just to get them to behave. She's not that. She's more. She is a chapter in history that has been butchered, that has been rewritten, that's been manipulated, but she existed.
Mhm.
She existed as more than just this story. So,
It seems to me that if as our focus is always that we have these deep roots that go back to our spirituality, but we also in this broadcast tend to like to connect them to current political things that are happening. And if you actually think about how what is happening in Texas with the lack of women's rights, the oases of, I mean, what do they call it? The deserts as far as OBGYN care, and just the massive amount of sort of attacks that are on our right. The Epstein files, you can just throw it out there, boom, boom, boom. You can't miss it. Turn on a headline, it's there. When you start and you think about all these connections, this one cultural icon that literally historically is probably not a fictional character. It's like she is so mistreated. She is so she's so misunderstood and mistreated and maligned,
mhm,
and that is because even historically men did not necessarily treat women very well. We were physically weaker, but I challenge a guy to go through cramping and spiritual what we have to do, and on a monthly basis until you're my age, and childbirth and all those other things. Women are pretty strong, and here's a cultural icon that you can celebrate. And I think it's important to recognize all La Llorona in all her many forms, and that even if she was just one individual in the Mexican culture, that there are other perhaps different entities that are so similar because of the similarity in the stories. Are they different entities? Yeah, probably, but are they also the same? They're so connected because these are stories of women who have endured tremendous hardships and maybe didn't make it through in the physical world, but their legends remain.
They are.
So it's
They are.
a very important topic on many levels. And Joe, that was a really wonderful presentation. I need a little practice with the slides, but but I did it. I got through there.
One more little note, one more little homage to her. If um gosh, and I wish I could remember exactly where that is, but I'm pretty sure if you guys look it up and just Google it, there is a mural in San Francisco that is dedicated to La Llorona.
I wonder if we could
Um,
up. Let
yeah,
me see if I can
yeah,
Google it.
I wish I could remember exactly where that is, but there is a mural dedicated to her up there.
Let's see, La Llorona mural, San Francisco. It says, let's see where it is. There, it's a mural by. Let's see here. There's a La Llorona streets. There's a number of La Llorona streets, and there's a Bay Area. It's actually. Let me pull it up. Let me see if I can pull up the news story here. Um, if I can. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to let me see if I can. I'll put up the link here. Edit, copy. Let me see if I can. It's at the 24th and York Street. Here we go. Let me do a quick. I'm going to do a quick. Let's see if I can screenshot the. It's here we go. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to load it up here in a second. I just have to get over to where I can do that. I am working on that. Okay, hold on here. There's a little place that I can add things to the image file. Let me see if I can get it open.
Now this particular mural, I did
Okay,
I
hang
did
on.
actually go out to see it. I will tell you, it's not exactly hidden away, but it's kind of hidden. That's the one. That'd be it.
There it is,
So,
and you can see it's on the corner of 24th and York Streets in the yeah. So in San Francisco.
uh, very beautiful, very powerful. Just kind of hard to view unless you happen to find parking. So
That's San
maybe
Francisco.
a few
Not easy
streets
to do.
away.
That's like parking
Um,
in Capitola.
yeah,
Where it used to
maybe.
be. I know all
So
about that. Yeah.
yeah. No, it does take a little work to actually get to it. The last time that I was there, actually the one time that I was there, um, took a little bit of a risk in parking, probably where I wasn't supposed to, but it was worth it for just 2 minutes to go and check out this mural. So yeah, if you guys ever get a chance, go and check that out. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys got some insight into it. Um, like I said, it's always been really popular in the Mexican culture. Um, but it's always been just kind of scratching the surface. We never really got into that. So um, if you guys have any questions at all, please, drop them in the comments. If you guys want to hear me belt that song out, I'm willing to do it. But hey, got let's
We
see.
can't
Let's
really
get
play something if we don't have the ability to, like, give them credit and, get.
well,
I mean,
yeah.
we probably could, but
Well, yeah. No, all right. No, just keep on tuning in, guys. We love doing this. And, again, you can hit us up on YouTube, on Facebook, over on Avalon Visions. Let us know what you guys want us to cover. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know what you guys are really interested about or interested in that we can actually, work with. So that's going to do it for this week. And yeah, so thank you guys one more time. You guys are amazing. So,
thanks for staying with us.
yeah, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you much. Ciao.
All right.